Hey, legal besties, I'm Michaela Dixon.
And I'm Allison Melendez.
And welcome to season 2 of Ladies in Law. This season, we will be focusing on how you can show up as your authentic self, not lose your softness, and continuing our discussion on the intricacies of being female professionals in a heavily male-dominated field. Today, we have an incredibly special guest. So can you introduce yourself and maybe touch upon our connection with each other?
Absolutely. My name is Jodi Weber. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I have my master's in social work and a long history of working as a professional. And Michaela is my daughter, my pride and joy, and it's an honor, Michaela. Thank you. Thank you, Allison.
We're so excited to have you, Jodi.
Thank you.
You touched upon it a little bit, but have you always been a social worker? Can you kind of talk upon your journey of becoming one? And you're a licensed social worker, licensed clinical social worker. So there's a lot of school that, is involved in getting to the level that you're at. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about your journey getting to where you are today?
Absolutely. So when I was younger, you know how you take those profession quizzes, and it always tells you.
I love those.
Me too.
So mine always said I was going to go into a helping profession. So I didn't know if that meant nurse. I knew it didn't mean doctor because I just don't have a science brain, but a nurse or, a caretaker, teacher, social worker. So I knew that was my trajectory for a very long time. So when I set off to college, I was going to take two different routes. I was either going to go hotel and restaurant management or psychology. My heart told me psychology. My pocketbook told me So when I started taking psychology in college, I loved it, but I was also like, why are we only talking about the brain? Why are we only talking about how our brain works? Like, what about the environment? It's so important to who a person is. So then I took sociology, and I said, why are we only talking about the environment? It's so important, how our brain works. And I was talking to a friend of mine who suggested social work because it's the perfect blend between the two. It's not only, a huge background in psychology, but also that environmental look. As a social worker, we look at the big picture and of a person's life and experiences. And so I graduated with a bachelor's in social work and went into immediately working with Child Protective Services, which was very difficult. I was young and inexperienced, and it just was a very difficult job for my heart. And so I changed locations of living, and when I did that, I went into the restaurant business, which
Full circle.
I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's like, you really are in the service industry. I mean, that's what you are. You are serving people. And what that profession taught me is really empathy toward people having really bad days. And, so it wasn't such like a personal attack. It was more like, wow, that person must really be going through it. So it taught me really just kind of another perspective to take on when somebody is just outcrying in a certain way. So I started a family, and Michaela, and
Firstborn.
and I have a younger daughter, I just thought, I know I still need to continue working. My heart is in social work. What can I do to make money but also have a schedule that made sense for being a mom? Because that became the most important thing to me always. And so I started teaching. And I taught preschool, I taught fourth grade, and I loved it because it put me on the same schedule as the girls. But my heart kept screaming, social work, like that's what you want to do. I knew that was going to be something that fulfilled me in different ways than I had experienced in the professional world. So I thought, okay, social work, but like how far do you want to take it? And so the LCSW, this clinical license that I have, was the end game. Like it was like, if I can get there, like I will have arrived. I can do this. But wait, I'm a mom. Like that's actually like what I'm doing right now, and the very most important thing, like I mentioned, and I probably will 10 more times.
I love
So,
it.
Same.
so I had it in my head that when Michaela gets her driver's license, I will go for it. I will, that will free me up logistically because she can help with her younger sister. And it feels funny calling an adult her little. But
She's forever a baby. And also, I think it's important to say, like, you were a single mom. And
yes.
so, like, you were having to fulfill so many roles at that time. And, like, while you have a very selfless heart, and of course, you were going to prioritize people ahead of yourself because that's just like how you show up. Like, you were also a single mom. So, you were also juggling a lot of that as well throughout this journey.
That's actually a really good point. And, I think that I I don't mention it because it was something, I would receive those comments like, how do you do it? And, it's amazing. And it's like, it's all I wanted. It was so fulfilling to be a mom that I almost forgot that other aspect of myself. And you set those priorities to the future because you both became my now. And when you got your license, literally that day I got my first really important social work role and rolled on from there in different capacities of the profession.
Can you talk a little bit about the way being a mom and having these two young daughters sort of inspired you to reignite that passion and go for it? Because I think, for some people that might be listening, it's scary. Like you get used to what you're doing, it's working, and then to shift and now go back to school or pursue this passion. Like what reignited that passion?
It's actually a really good question because when you're so far away from being in school, some of that self-doubt comes into play. Like, am I even going to remember some of these things, or how to write a paper, or how to study for an exam? But I knew from being like getting back into the profession that it was important to level up. And so it just at that juncture, it was like, okay, it has to be the right timing because I have two daughters. I want them to see that women can do it all. We can get through college. We can choose our career paths. If the career path isn't working for us, find something that is working for us, in whatever way that is, emotionally or financially, hopefully both. So to reignite that, it was kind of that precipice of my life where I was an empty nester and I raised two amazing, strong, independent women. And it's like, well, it's one thing to raise them. It's another to show that you are one as well. And that became very, very important to me. It's like, it's time, it's time to do it. And so, looking into grad school, I had those same sort of like self-doubt moments. And I just thought, no, why am I looking at it like why am I caring so much what anybody else thinks? Like, I'm going back to school because this is something that I want. And so it just, everything aligned, and I went back to school in my 50s. And, I excelled. I did better than I ever thought I could. And I think that, it was, again, just not only wanting to talk and be that encourager for my girls, but to also just walk it, live it, do it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note, like, you were also working full time on top of being a student, and you were also in an accelerated course. So it's like you
And a
excelled,
mom.
and a mom, literally. And like showing up as a mom and showing up for school and showing up as an employee, like you were just showing up in every facet, and you weren't just excelling at school, you were excelling at all of them, which is not easy.
Thank you.
I
No.
think what I did want to ask, like one thing that you kind of talked about off before we got on was that your daughter also, your other daughter, pursued social work, and I just, if you could touch on that, I think that's such a cool story.
So she did. She followed in my footsteps and graduated with a degree in social work. And I don't know how many moms can say this. I'm sure there's a lot more than I am even knowledgeable of, but my daughter and I went to grad school together. And it
It's so
was
cool.
I love it.
coolest experience. I know I drove her crazy though, because I was like a very different student, because she had just graduated and was still in the groove of that, and I felt like I was just having to kind of figure it all out again. Much better student this time around, for sure, than I ever was in undergrad.
And that's something I kind of wanted to talk to you about too, is like, because you went into this grad school program later on in life, how did your life experiences help you as a student?
So much more. As I mentioned before, when I was so young and fresh out of school, and felt like I had a really good grasp of my profession and what I do, but there's just so much more to it, and let my life experience just really helped me to understand what, not only like what I was learning, but apply it to life, and from a life experience. And I just enjoyed it so much more because I feel like it was my choice. It was my choice to go back to school, not like this is what we do after high school, we go to college. And it was like a little bit of like, what am I going to do? Am I going the hotel restaurant? Am I going, just a little bit of that fork in the road, so to speak. But truly committing this time to learning everything, absorbing everything I could. And it was a lot better. I mean, for anybody thinking of going back to school, I would highly encourage that, just because you doubt what you know in terms of like scholastically or academically, but life experience, oh, it's amazing how rich that is.
I think my entire upbringing, you always said like it is never too late to bet on yourself. It is never too late to change career paths. It's never too late to go back to school. It's never too late to just like take a step back and assess like, am I happy right now where I'm at? And if I'm not, am I going to do something about it? And I think sometimes it is maybe a lot easier to say than do, especially when you are an adult and you are established, and the idea of just kind of being where you're at might seem safer and just more comfortable because it's what you know, but it's so different to actually do something about it and to take that next step. What would you say really propelled you to take that next step and truly bet on yourself?
It was time. I mean, it was time to go for it. And I think that when something is on your mind so often and the desire is so strong, sometimes everyday stuff stuffs it. And, for so long, I wasn't truly being true to myself, right? Because this is where I wanted to take this path. I wanted to go for it. So, I think that the hardest part of making a change is that just first step. So we all decide we want it. We all keep putting it off. Oh, all the stars will align and I'll know it's the right time, but they're not aligned yet. And it's scary, right? Because we all get into our groove of life and we're the ones that are changing it. We're so used to reacting. But, it's just that first step of no, I'm going to do it. And then it's from there, you pick up momentum, and with momentum you pick up confidence, and with confidence you pick up success, and it's just it's a wonderful ride, but you just have to do it. Not just decide to do it, but do it.
Yeah.
Just make that first step, even if it's a small little step, I'm just going to research programs and just see. I'm just going to apply. We'll see if I get in. I might not even get in. Boom, you get in. And it's so inspirational, because I think you just get so busy with your day-to-day, right? And so at a certain point when you do have kids, you're comfortable in your job, you get into this routine, and the years go by really quickly. And so to really just sit back and think about what makes me happy, why am I not feeling fulfilled? And sometimes that's not even a career change. It could be something completely different. But I love your story, and I think it's beautiful the way your family helped inspire you to continue to go back and fulfill that once desire to be a social worker. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. That speaks to surrounding yourself with people that always want you to continue to grow. And I think that that's something that our family does embrace, is we're never done. Why think that way? Honestly, when I was done with my master's program, I thought, I think I want to get my doctorate. Oh my God, I have to be a career student.
So this is where Michaela gets it from.
Yes, So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate. I mean, if anybody is inspired by my story, I'm so happy. But
You have at least two right here.
Oh, thank you.
Two fangirls.
Yes.
Can you talk about how COVID kind of helped create an opportunity for you to pursue additional further education?
Yeah, talk about timing, right?
Yeah.
So, empty nest, kind of at that, COVID made us all slow down, if not stop. And I think I became very introspective as to thinking, what is next? And so during COVID, it was that decision and that going for it, because what do I have to lose? Like you said, Allison, just apply, just go for it. And because I think that when COVID happened, I think we all thought it was going to be for a couple weeks. And
Yes.
then, it was
Can't confirm.
much longer. And it was that time that I just took advantage of it. I think that it turned out to be a very positive time for me, because I was stuck in that head of mine where I was it's tired of hearing you talk about it. Let's do this. So, and again, it's talking to my people and saying, what do you think about it? And it's yes, go for it. Encouraging that, you can do this, mentality. So I absorbed it and did it.
I love it. Amazing.
So incredible. I think we have time for one more question before we wrap up this part 1, but don't be disappointed, fans. We will have her back for more parts. She has a lot more to say. And I don't know if I should say fans, people, humans, listeners. I don't know.
Future fans. There you go.
It felt really powerful to say.
I'm a fan of your podcast, so
I love it.
Okay, good.
I have one, Michaela. I don't want to jump in over you, but
No, okay.
Two questions, yes. Okay, so you can just tell whenever you talk about your work, like you're so passionate about it. What is the one thing that you love about being a social worker, a licensed clinical social worker?
Whew. Okay, so for me, I need every day to look different. I cannot do monotony. And so if I have I will create something in my life to keep it exciting. So with social work, the thing I love most about it is that it truly is one of those professions that are just really selfless. And just being of service to others is my comfort zone. I think that it is one of those professions also that, you can go into so many different areas of service. You could be in foster care or adoptions. You can help elderly. You can go into private practice. You can be in the schools as a counselor. You can do so many different things. So if you start feeling like, I'm kind of burning out in this one area, then you switch to another focus. So I think that's what I love the most. I love working with people. People ignite me completely. I can be low energy and feel like I'm not very talkative today. And then I get around people and I'm like, no, I have things.
I just need more people. Oh my gosh, I totally get that. I'm the same way. So fun.
Those are some of the things that I love about it.
I think this honestly ties into that question really well. But Allison has talked about how she feels like she became a better advocate once she became a mom. And so I kind of want to talk to you because you do have experience being a social worker pre-kids and post-kids. So can you kind of touch on how the way that you show up as a social worker maybe has been impacted by being a mom?
Such a good question. I did not know how to advocate for myself. I did not know how to advocate for others until I became a mom. Because when I became a mom, I became a fierce protector and advocate for human life. And it taught me every skill set I have today to carry into my profession. I learned how to advocate for my daughters, which taught me how to advocate for myself. And now it's taught me how to advocate for others. So I was very different in this field and in the restaurant business as a teacher. I put my heart into it and I'm a good employee, I'm a good worker, but I think that everything came together for me when the professional and the parenthood blended and then took it into this level of where I'm at right now. I feel solid. I feel solid as a person doing what I do every day.
That's amazing. And in the next part, we're going to get into the skills that you do have, and so that you can help us as advocates do exactly what you're describing, how we can most authentically and empathetically show up for our clients. So stay tuned for part 2, which will be released in a couple weeks.